In today's video, we'll be going over what the survival arena is and how do we win. Let's take a look. Hello, 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 whether it's morning, afternoon, or night, welcome to the video. Thanks for joining me today. Today we've got something special. We're talking about our survival arena, which will be the first beta we gain access to with Illuvium. So we're going to be diving into what it's going to take to win at the survival arena and get as far as possible and possibly rank really high on the leaderboards. And we'll be showing you how to do that, starting from the basics. Let's get into it. All right, so here's our first leak of the video, and this is basically showing the UI of the launcher. And so we've got access to download the game now, and there will be a Windows and a Mac version as we see here. But we are still in private beta, so a lot of this information could change. Just keep that in mind. We see that there's some tutorials at the top of the screen. We've got a leaderboard, and we have a wallet address here. So you might have to start out with a wallet right now, but I believe they are creating an on-ramp where players may just be able to create an account and play for free simply using an email and a password. But it doesn't look like they've fleshed that out just yet. And so judging by this leak alone, we're just looking at what we're seeing on the screen, and it looks like you have to have a wallet. So he clicks on the leaderboard here, and we can see, judging by the stats here, our player has achieved rank 2 and finished 57 waves, and it only took him 17 minutes and 24 seconds. This may be like in-game time. That may not be including all of the work it takes to like plan and strategize each wave. That may be simply the time it took to finish the battles, but I don't know. I mean, some of these say 39 minutes and 42 minutes, and they've defeated a lot less enemies. So unless they're dying a lot and having to retry each wave, then maybe not. Maybe it's total time spent in survival mode, and our player just wrecked all of the waves and got through 57 of them like smoothly without any issues at all. And we can see the only player who's beat us right now is Squeaky Puff, and they've finished wave 64 in 16 minutes, so that's impressive. This is actually the highest number that I've seen for any of the leaked information regarding the waves in survival mode. So I'm curious to see how many there will actually be, if there will be like 100 or more, or if they'll keep it around 50, because most of the leaks show about 50 to 55 ish waves, and 64 so far I think is the highest number that I've seen yet. So that's pretty interesting right there. And then let's move on to the next leak we've got here. And we've got a leak on the weapons and gear for your hunter. So the hunter is the first thing that's going to be played in the survival arena mode. You always have a hunter with deployed with your team of alluvials, and we know that we'll be able to craft a weapon and your armor that goes into creating your character, and you can upgrade these things. So weapons and armor also follow along a same tier progression as your alluvials. So you'll have tier 1 weapons, tier 1 armor. We can upgrade, craft, gather resources, and make these things better over time with our resources, and develop tier 3 weapons, tier 3 armor. And basically what we're assuming that means is you see the different types of weapons over here, and we believe that that will depend on what class you want your character to function as. If you want him to synergize with your fighters, you can give him possibly this sword, and he becomes like a fighter type class. If you want him to become like a bulwark type class, there is a shield, and we believe that you might be able to give him a shield so that he becomes a bulwark type. And then these other ones are anybody's guess, but you've got guns, you've got spears, and so depending on which one you choose, we believe that that's again going to be class dependent there. And every time you upgrade your gear here, there might be some stat bonuses that make your character a little bit more tanky, a little bit stronger, but we believe it will also affect how many affinities and classes you're able to synergize with. So at tier 1 weapons and tier 1 armor, maybe it never allows you to add an affinity to it, perhaps. So your weapon simply becomes a fighter type class character. Same with your armor. But let's say I want to make my sword synergize with my fire type alluvials, then if I upgrade it to level 2 or 3, we will be able to imbue these weapons and our armor with different affinities during the crafting process. We know that's part of it. And so we don't know exactly what stage that will take place, but as you're progressing through increasing your crafts and building out your gear for each of your character's weapons and armor sets, you'll be able to add these affinity bonuses to synergize with different synergies of characters. So theoretically, I could have 5 different swords, and I could have one that synergizes with my fire characters, my earth characters, my wind characters, my water characters, and so on, right? So that's all we've got really here, and we've got some more leaked footage regarding what that might look like in the game itself. And so you can see he's choosing different weapons here, and as he chooses the fire weapon, you see the animation around the fire type alluvials, the nature he synergizes with, and it activates the nature synergy, water synergy there, and back to nature. And again to fire. And then this leak, I wanted to stop here and explain to everyone how the hex radiuses work. So each tier alluvial will have a different hex radius. So you see our Archie here, and the Archos and Archelion. He's got a much bigger hex radius as he evolves, as you progress through the tiers. And so Archie only has a 4x4 hex radius. Archos has a 6x6, and then an 8x8 whenever you get to the tier 3 form over here. And that goes for any tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. They all follow this same pattern. And their stats, as you'll see in other videos, and the agility follows along the same pattern in a depreciating manner. So as they're smaller, they're more nimble, and they'll get bigger and slower, essentially, is what we believe there. But the interesting thing here is because Archelion is so much bigger, right, you could actually use him more in front of your weaker tier 1 alluvials, and I could technically hide Archie behind him because he's so much bigger, and he will aggro the enemy alluvials first, because his range of engaging the enemies is just much bigger. And so you're able to hide some of the smaller ones behind the bigger alluvials, or vice versa. If maybe you want your bigger alluvials to, you think he does more damage, maybe there's a special alluvial eventually that has high damage and a tank you could put out in front, and then he he's squishy but has a big hex radius, right? Then you could possibly put him in the back for some reason. But I imagine the bigger alluvials will definitely have more health, and so you definitely want to possibly hide your smaller ones behind. and that will be very interesting in the placements we'll be able to make with this hex grid platform that we battle on. And we're going to move on to the health bars here, and what we're looking at is basically your health in the blue, as opposed to the red is going to be your enemy always in Illuvium. And what we see here is the dark blue is our health. This white area would be like a shield any of your alluvials casts or creates for itself, or possibly shields other allies and buffs your team with a shield. You'll see that displayed in the white area or gray, whatever I might be colorblind, that shows here. And then obviously the dark or depleted area is where you've taken damage. So this would be full health, you've taken damage and have a shield, and etc. The bottom bar here that fills up in the light blue is going to be your Omega ability with each one of your alluvials. As your alluvial attacks and creates an aggression throughout the battle, it will take so many attacks to fill up this energy bar, and then he will activate and cast his Omega ability. So Archie will be able to slam his fists on the ground and use his healing AoE, or Scoriox can fire his large energy fireball at the enemy that does a lot of damage. And then finally, the other thing that we see here is this yellow energy bar that's going up the left-hand side of each of these health bars. And what this is going to be the hyper meter bar. And so just real quick, the hyper meter is a new mechanic to Illuvium, and that's something that the developers have created themselves to give this game a certain twist that allows us to use the affinities and strengths and weakness to kind of help turn the tide of battles or sway battles in a way that other battles and other auto battlers don't have the ability to do. And so what that's going to be like is if this bar is filling up and it reaches max, we see that up here it encompasses the entire health bar on top and on bottom. You can see it shining there on top and bottom, and that's going to be fully activated. And when that happens, we understand that will give your alluvial most likely a stat boost, and it will either increase its Omega ability's power and become stronger, or it could entirely change the alluvial's Omega ability into something completely different. Maybe not drastically different, but it will change its ability, right? And so depending on which alluvial you have, it will become stronger, its ability changes, and it could totally annihilate the opposition on the board at that point because of the added strength it earns and it gains because of its weakness or strengths advantage here. So how does it increase this bar? Well, like in Pokemon, whenever you've got different type matchups, like fire and grass, your fire does extra damage to your grass opponents. But in Illuvium, the playing field is a little bit more even and balanced as opposed to Pokemon. So you don't necessarily have a type advantage and don't do more damage additionally to your opponents. But if I have a fire type alluvial like Scoriox and I'm attacking your Archie, for instance, then I'll be gaining progression on my hypermeter bar every time I attack your alluvial during gameplay. And if an opposing alluvial who's weak against my alluvial starts attacking me, I also gain hypermeter whenever they're attacking me and they're weak versus me. So you gain both ways, while you're attacking and then while they're attacking if they're weak. But the opposite is also true. So if I'm weak against my opponent and I'm attacking their alluvial, then I'm either going to have my hyper canceled out and not gain any hyper essentially, or they might be depleting my hyper energy bar because they're so much stronger. They have so much. They have such a stronger type advantage against my alluvial that it may completely deplete my hyper and eliminate my hyper from ever even activating during the battle. So that's a very interesting mechanic. I hope I explained it correctly and in depth enough for you guys. And now we're going to jump right into the latest leak footage of the survival arena. Okay, so when you enter the survival arena, you get to see this little animation here, and we zoom in to our hunter standing on the battlefield. So I'm going to pause here. A couple things that I want to point out is we do see we have a wave of enemies we need to defeat. There are 3 of them. We will always be able to see the opposition in survival mode. But if you've been following along with the channel and have read on the other leaks of the game, there are other game modes like ranked arenas, Leviathan arena, that may hide the placements of your enemies until the match actually starts. So those are different game modes. We'll get to that later. But I just wanted to briefly touch on this because in survival mode, training mode, we will always be able to see what we're up against. We'll always see the other wave of enemies. And this will be very similar to what we encounter in the overworld whenever we gain access to the overworld and we're able to go actually catch our alluvials out in the wild. When we go into an encounter, this will be much like the encounter. So I might be encountering this Archie up here in the top right, and I have to defeat these other alluvials and Archie in order to gain the ability to possibly catch him with my shard. But aside from that, we're going to look at the other information we see here on the screen that we're given. On the right hand side over here, we see our player. It shows our primary affinities and classes based on what we have deployed on the battlefield currently. And right now we just have our hunter. So like we were mentioning before, based on the weapon and the armor, or possibly just the weapon. The armor may be base stats, mind you. So a lot of this information we haven't been given full details on, but our weapon is customizable, and we've seen that the weapon has a huge benefit with the affinities and the classes. Maybe your armor is where all of your base stats come from, and your weapon is simply the mechanism that they add the affinity and the class typing to, if that makes sense, if you're following along. So what we're seeing here is that we have the hunter, we have a water affinity and a fighter class over here on the left, and so it'll work well with things like our Axon line, which we'll get to later. And then we see on the right hand side of the screen our enemy synergies. And so we can see that we have a water, nature, empath, scion, and fighter. And moving on, we're going to notice that below each card has this gold energy, if you will. They call them mastery points. So you have a certain amount of mastery points or energy that allows you to deploy your alluvials onto the battlefield each round. And these little dots right here to the left of it show that we are able to actually place up to 8 alluvials on the battle at any given time. And this little area over to the right, I believe, is our augments, but they're not going to show it in this leak. But we think that that's the augments. And then down below, we can actually sort through our different alluvials with these quick keys. This is where you can shuffle through all of your water types, your earth types, nature types, wind and fire. And then if I wanted to select all tier 1s, tier 2s, tier 3s, and then the different classes we have available in our deck of cards here, we have the options here to quickly filter and select those as well. So let's move on. Okay, so he chooses the Goliath. So we understand that Goliath is a granite and bulwark, which doesn't help with our water and fighter synergies we got going on. But we see that he's got he's got 2,000 health, 40 attack, 50 armor. We believe this other symbol is 40 energy armor, so your omega ability damage armor essentially, and then 25 accuracy, and then 90 agility over here on the far right. And his ability says that Goliath summons a ghostly beetle that charges at the furthest enemy, dealing 350 damage times your omega power. So OP is omega power. Physical damage to all enemies that it passes through and stunning them for 2 seconds. Goliath then gains 10 physical resistance for the rest of the battle. So depending on where you place him, if he lasts multiple rounds of his omega ability, we believe this does stack. So he'll gain a stack of 10 physical resistance each time he uses this ability. And we also see that we're going to place Fiery. I hope you're enjoying the video. I know from looking at my analytics on my YouTube that half of you right now watching the video probably have not liked or subscribed to the video below. If you want to do that for me real quick, that would be really great. It doesn't cost anything but just a click of a button. It's free of charge, and it helps me out, helps promote the channel, and definitely want to reach as many people with our content and share Illuvium with as many people out there as possible. So I appreciate it, and we'll get back to the video. Thank you. So we see that Fiery, I'm going to link it to the screen, but Fiery is a fire and scion. So our scions, we believe, are going to be kind of like our ADCs from League of Legends. They're going to be more damage dealing illuvials, but he's got, it looks like 850 health, 110 damage, 20 armor, 20 energy armor, 25 accuracy, and 70 agility. So when Fiery activates its molten core and empowers the next attack for 5 seconds to deal 50 times 50 damage, or 50 plus 50 damage times his omega power in additional energy damage. Okay, so we've got a decent tank, and we've got our damage dealing illuvial behind. And so you see how all of the illuvials on the opponent's side of the field go straight for the tank because he was positioned out front. He's the one taking the brunt of all the damage, so he gets taken out first, and that leaves our Fiery to make a nice play. And I just want to quickly stop here and let everyone notice that the hypermeter bars on each side are lower, obviously, for Archie, because he's now fighting a fire type, which he's weak against, and the hypermeter has gained a lot more for Fiery because he's been attacking things that he's strong against. But we won't get to see it activate just yet. Okay, so that was the end of that first round, and we're going to move to the second round. We get to earn back our energy by killing our alluvials and just tossing them to the side and into the water. That's a fun little mechanic right there. And we've actually upgraded him. So if you didn't notice, we gained about 20 to 25% more energy with each wave. And so we have more energy to deploy alluvials with and defeat the next wave. And the next wave will obviously increase as well. And what we know about the survival arena is the increase that our opponents are added onto the field of play are actually more than what we are allowed as a player. And so they're getting stronger a lot faster than we're getting stronger, essentially, is what that means. So we play the Furiox here, and we can see here with the leaked stats that we have 1450 health with that guy there, and he does 170 base damage. He's got 25 base physical armor, 20 base energy armor, 25 accuracy, and 60 agility. And his ability is much like his stage 1 Fury ability, just a bit stronger. It says Furiox activates its molten core for 5 seconds, increasing their attack speed by 20%, empowering their attacks to deal an additional 75 plus 75 damage times his Omega power in additional energy damage. So let's play this out. We'll see just how much stronger he is here, because it doesn't look like we can play any other cards currently on the field of play. I did want to pause real quick because I do want to note that as you're scrolling to the side here, we can tell that this display that we're looking at actually lists all of our alluvials from the lowest mastery point cost here on the left to the highest mastery cost to the right. So our lowest ones are over here, our highest ones are to the right. Okay? All right. So the battle is underway. We see our tank doing its job. Almost surviving through 2 of the enemy alluvial deaths. And man, that Archelion does a lot of damage to our hunter. Our hunter is so squishy. But again, we have a type advantage here because he is his nature. But we can see his hyper meter started to fill up, but it stopped now because he's facing an opponent that's weak against him. And so we take him out. Now we're just showing off here the different camera angles that you can use while you're playing this game and while you're playing this game mode. I do want to quickly note here the Titanor that we just played has some interesting stats. So we've already gone over Goliath, but we've upgraded, which cost us 30 extra energy. Goliath only cost 70 mastery points or energy. I keep saying energy, so sorry about that. But Titanor is 100 mastery points, and we see here his stats are 2,700 health, 120 damage, 50 armor, and 40 energy armor or energy resistance, and then 25 accuracy and 60 agility. And so again, his ability will be similar as well, but stronger. So Titanor summons a ghostly beetle that charges at the furthest away enemy, dealing 450 damage times his Omega power in physical damage to all enemies that it passes through and stunning them for 2 seconds. Titanor then gains 25% resoluteness for 4 seconds and 10 physical resistance for the rest of the round. So resoluteness, we're not entirely sure what that means, but we have a theory that he will be preventing extra damage for those 4 seconds, or possibly cannot die for 4 seconds. So one of those two options, for 4 seconds, he's either really tanky, or just simply cannot die for 4 seconds, like a shield. That prevents him from losing his last health point, essentially, is kind of the mechanics we've theory craft on that one. And let's see just how well Titanor fights. Okay, you saw his ghostly image of the beetle shoot towards the Dwelleth over here and stunned him for 2 seconds. Oh man. That energy blast just decimated our backline over there. So Dwelleth is a very strong character for sure. So we're actually going to play a Tatupi. So Tatupi, we're going to look at real quick. Has, it looks like 600 health we got here, or maybe it says 500. I think it says 500 health. It's kind of small for me to read. And then 45 damage, 20 armor. It looks kind of like a 3. So I'm going to say 30 armor, and then 20 energy armor, and then 25 accuracy and 100 agility. So his ability says that Tatupi fires projectiles at the 3 closest enemies that each deal 200 damage times his omega power in energy damage. So that's pretty interesting. He attacks multiple enemies. Okay, so this is the first time we've actually seen a rogue blink over to the enemy's backline here. So this Verme's upgraded form, this is the tier 2 form of Verme, the Anteater, but it just blinked over as soon as that battle started, just like assassins do in TFT or other games. So rogues are essentially our assassins here, and so that will allow us access to our enemy backline. You know, so if I wanted to take out this character over here, and I think he's the damage on the enemy's team, right? And he needs to die first. So I'm going to place my rogue, if I have one, over here on this side of the field of play, so that when he blinks, that is the first enemy he attacks and takes out. But unfortunately, he's going to take out our Tatupi, it looks like. That is his first target. Let's see how this plays out. You can see the stats and the damage and things like dodge happening here. And as we understand it, critical strikes, additional strikes, dodge chances, abilities like that in this game are static. They are not actual probabilities and chances of happening like most games, like TFT, for instance. If it says that your Verme will dodge 25% of attacks, essentially that means he'll dodge 1 out of every 4 attacks, like in succession. So maybe the 4th attack he dodges. So he'll get hit once, twice, 3 times, and then dodge. He'll get hit once, 2, 3 times, and then dodge. So it is a very static, it is a very formulative approach to how you can play out these auto battlers. Same goes for whenever you deal additional damage. If it says that you will crit, like 33% of the time, for instance, then essentially that will mean you're going to crit on your 3rd attack. So every 3 attacks, you attack once, you attack twice, crit on your third. You attack once, you attack twice, and then you crit. So that's kind of how they've built this game out. That's kind of how they fleshed it out. I just wanted to briefly touch on that because Aaron, one of the game devs, has talked about how they want this to be like chess. Everything that is placed on the field of battle will play out exactly the same way every single time you place those units in that same position and with their same strengths. There's no other outcome than what you see being played out in front of you. So if you fail to win against this wave of your survival arena, then you have to make a change, because there wasn't a chance that you would have won. There was no RNG that would have helped you win, because there is no RNG. They've taken that completely out of the game, completely out of the mechanics here, so that while you're placing these alluvials, while you're planning ahead and strategizing how you're using these things, you're literally playing a game of chess, so that your placements and your abilities and how many times they proc or activate during a battle, how long each alluvial lasts, where you place them to take the least amount of damage, where you place them to survive and be able to dish out the most amount of damage. This is all taking effect right here, and that's the point I wanted to drive home very quickly before we move on. But yes, this means that when we win, we would have won every single time. We can replay the match, put those alluvials in the exact same position, and if we lose when we place those alluvials, the same results will happen every single time with those same alluvials and with those same positions. Okay? So we see here that Titanor is a beast, right? He can tank a lot of damage. And all right, so this is fun. We get to see the Behemoth class here that Kieran Warwick was talking about having a hard time dealing with and having a hard time getting past here in the survival arena while they've been playing in the beta. And we see we have another rogue. So Ramfi, the stage 1, was a rogue and comes to our backline to take out our Fearox here, and then Archelion somehow took out our Tatupi. Oh my god, we got melted. And Titanor is going to win and come over and take out Ramfi. Stomp. Alright, so I'm gonna cut the video off about right here because it's gotten a little long. I didn't mean for it to get so long this time around. Again, this will just be the intro to the survival arena. There is more to come. We'll get into some more in-depth analysis, some strategy, positioning guides, you name it. It'll come down the road. So just please like, subscribe, share this video so you can stay tuned. You'll get updates on the videos to come, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Welcome to my own space. Welcome to my own space. Welcome to my own space. Welcome